O'Reilly Factors on tonight.
This is bad news long-term for the Republicans and great news for Democrats.
Britt Hume talking about the stunning defeat of Eric Cantor yesterday by a Tea Party candidate in Virginia. But is this really bad news for the Republican Party? We'll have analysis.
My question is, will we put American lives at risk to go after these individuals if they rejoin the fight?
Well, yes.
Defense Secretary Hagel grilled today over the Taliban swap he supports. But even more troubling, looks like the jihadists are now winning the war on terror. Ralph Peters on that. Also tonight, Dennis Miller on a new poll that says Fox News, the most trusted media agency in the country. In addition, a Factor exclusive, we'll talk with an American who was captured by the Taliban.
Caution, you are about to enter the no-spin zone. Factor begins right now. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Is there a Tea Party resurgence over immigration? That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. House Majority Leader Eric Cantor lost big last night to a Tea Party candidate, David Brat, in Virginia. The race was not even close. Some analysts believe Mr. Cantor alienated Republican voters because of his stance on immigration. Talking Points does not believe that was the primary reason for Mr. Cantor's defeat. Cantor served in the House for 13 years, but has become very unpopular in his district. In fact, 49% of Republican voters disapproved of him before the primary yesterday. It's hard to know why, but there's one interesting item that may be telling. Mr. Cantor's campaign spent almost $170,000 eating in steakhouses. Mr. Brat's campaign spent just over $200,000 on everything. That's all the money they had. So it seems that Mr. Cantor was living large, and perhaps the voters in Virginia saw that. In South Carolina, it was a different story. Senator Lindsey Graham beat his conservative opponents by a wide margin. Mr. Graham and Mr. Cantor's outlook on illegal immigration, similar. So why would voters in Virginia punish Mr. Cantor, but voters in South Carolina reward Mr. Graham? Both constituencies are conservative. To me, Eric Cantor lost because he is part of the establishment, which is not in favor with most voters these days. Mr. Graham won because he has been a consistent critic of President Obama. Now on to the immigration deal. There will be no reform passed in Congress anytime soon. The shocking results of thousands of children illegally crossing the southern border has pretty much put an end to comprehensive immigration reform. Everybody knows in order to assimilate illegal aliens already here, you have to first secure the border, because if you do not, millions of folks will flood into the country looking for working papers. The Obama administration claims the border is secure. Now we know that is not true, as children are flooding into the country, creating a humanitarian crisis. The American people should be furious that the border is still out of control 13 years after 9/11. There's no excuse, none. Until the borders of the USA are secure, no pathway for citizenship for illegal aliens can be considered. And a note to all you left-wing loons out there, why do you think all these kids are coming to the USA now? Why? Because they know once they get here, they can stay here. The situation is disgraceful. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, why is the border such a mess? Joining us now on the telephone from McAllen, Texas, Chris Cabrera, the Vice President of the National Border Patrol Council in Rio Grande Valley, a union that represents some Border Patrol agents. Mr. Cabrera, I find it almost impossible to believe that thousands of children are traipsing across Mexico, some of them from Honduras, El Salvador, and then crossing into the USA illegally. How is that happening?
You know, it does seem difficult to understand, but I've seen it firsthand. These kids are coming, whether it's by themselves or women and children, and they're turning themselves in by the dozens.
What do you mean turning themselves in? McAllen, Texas is a border crossing, all right? On one side, there's the Mexican authorities, and on the other side, there are the American border authorities. What do you mean? They just walk across through the Mexican checkpoint up to the American side? Is that what they do?
Well, what they do is they find their way down to the river usually through a smuggler. They put them in some type of raft or inner tube, maybe even a small jumbo, and they float them across, get them to the U.S. side, and point them in the direction of the nearest Border Patrol agent, and they walk up and turn themselves in.
So they used to sneak across the border and try to run away from you guys, the Border Patrol agents. But now the strategy is to just walk up and say, here I am.
Yeah, exactly. In the sense that they're catching us instead of us catching them.
Okay. Now, why can't the Border Patrol just say, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to be here, take them to a bus and just bring them back to Mexico, drive them back to Mexico?
Well, the problem being is a lot of these people aren't from Mexico. They're from
But is that our problem? Is that our problem? They're coming in from Mexico. Look, I don't want to be a child, somebody who's hurting children, but it seems to me a policy would be, look, you're not allowed to be here unless, the kid was 3 or 4, and then you have to. But if it's a teenager or an adult, you take them, you put them on a bus, and you drive them back from whence they came.
Yeah, the thing is, though, some of these kids are as young as 3 and 4, and on top of that, the federal government recognizes anybody under the age of 18 as a child. So
what are the orders to the Border Patrol? If anyone under the age of 18 is a child, what are the orders from the federal government? What are the Border Patrol agents supposed to do? If they're not sending them right back, what are the orders?
Well, we're bringing them in. We're detaining them. We're looking for family members in the United States. And unfortunately, they're reuniting with those family members in the United States.
All right. So everyone now from Laredo, Nuevo Laredo, down to Punta Arenas in Argentina, everyone knows that if you're under 18 and you can get across that river, which isn't hard to do, all right, you can stay in America forever. That's the reality? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
So why wouldn't they come? Why wouldn't millions of people come? Of course they're going to come.
Yeah, the memo's out. On a loophole in the system, they're exploiting it, and they're doing a good job. Quite frankly, until we change our policy, until we start doing mandatory removals, mandatory detentions, it's going to continue. All
right. So the smugglers, they charge money to put them in the boat and send them across. So they're making a lot of money. Everybody, as you said, knows now. All the bad guys know. All the villagers know. Everybody knows. You get in and you're under 18, you're golden. Now, what about over 18? Say you charge somebody's 21 years old. How do you know how old they are anyway? They're coming in and say I'm 16, right? You don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess the trick to it here is there's publications out in their home country that says if you come over with a child, where the United States will take care of you and they won't turn you away. So we're getting record numbers of mothers with children or father with their children, and they're setting them free as well. Okay, so
even if an adult has a child, it doesn't even have to be his own child. It could be Ricky down the street. He can stay or she can stay if they have a child coming over, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, they're going to pretend that it's their child, I guess.
Right.
They got to prove that.
How would you know? All right. Now, what do the guys think about it? What do the Border Patrol agents think about all this?
Well, my agents, they're pretty frustrated with what's going on. They go out there, they put in a hard day's work, and it seems like it's all going for nothing.
All right. So just take today, Wednesday. How many people have come across today that you know of in McAllen sector?
Well, just at our station, which is a small portion of the sector, we had a group of 74 people that crossed. Actually, it was 2 groups. They crossed within 20 minutes of each other. 74 people came in, turned themselves in to the Border Patrol agents.
And they'll all stay in the United States?
All of them were either women and children or unaccompanied children.
All right, and Texas can't handle them, so Texas is sending them to Arizona, and Arizona can't handle them. And meantime, what is the Obama administration, ICE, all of that? Did they say anything to you guys? Are they telling you to do anything?
But, nobody seems to be able to handle it, and so it's getting stuck at the lowest level, which happens to be Border Patrol. And we're not equipped with facilities to handle people more than a few days. All
right, so as far as you know, Mr. Cabrera, as a union rep, Washington is not engaging you guys down in McAllen about this problem.
We've been at it for a few months, talking to the higher ups in Washington, trying to get an answer to this. And just recently, within the last couple weeks, the wheels started turning. However, it's a little too late. Now we're being overwhelmed, and we're struggling to keep up with this problem. when we had warned them about this months ago.
It really is a scandal. I mean, this is unbelievable. All right, Mr. Cabrera, we appreciate you coming on. We're going to check back in with you next week. And, I mean, I'm just stunned right now. Next on the rundown, are the jihadists winning? Terrorists around on a march throughout the world, and Iraq may fall. Iraq may fall. Colonel Ralph Peters with the grisly details. Then we'll talk with a man who was kidnapped by the Taliban. He'll tell us what he went through before he escaped. Factors coming right back.